if you need or want to look at long-term care as an insurance benefit, then you're going to have to go outside of the federal government because you're not going to be able to currently enroll in the federal long-term care insurance program because it's suspended. So there are a lot of different options if you want to provide long-term care insurance for yourself, which is actually a benefit for your loved ones. And so you're not a burden on them, and that your medical care costs are not a burden on them. And there's a lot of ways in which you can provide that protection. Now, first I have to say, long-term care in general has been more difficult to get from an underwriting perspective, because if you're not healthy now, well, it's a lot tougher to get that insurance, right? It's the insurance you got to get before you need it, because once you need it, you're probably not going to be able to get it. I ran into this problem when I first got into insurance and financial services. I was not working in the federal market at this time, but I was trying to help my grandmother. And my grandmother was in a situation where she needed some help, with long-term care insurance, but it turned out that she was too far gone already. She was already diagnosed with several things that prevented her from getting long-term care insurance. So I realized now that she needed it, she could no longer get it. So long-term care in general is something you need to prepare for, plan ahead for. Most of the time, the people that see the value of or the benefit of long-term care insurance are those that have gone through a long-term care type situation. As I was just describing with my grandmother, I saw that she needed to have a long-term care insurance plan, but she did not have one in place. And she had a 24-hour live-in person for several years before she passed, and she was draining her own personal assets to pay for that because she did not have an insurance program that was paying for that. So again, when she needed it, she couldn't get it. And if something you want to get, but you can't because the federal government has suspended, and the long-term care insurance program provided by LTC Feds, it has been suspended, then where do you go? What do you look at? There are outside plans that you can look at, private plans that you can go to. And these are things that we can assist with. You just reach out to us, go to our website, www.federalretirementshow.com. You can fill out the form. We can be in touch and we can go over these things. But there are ways that you can get not only long-term care plans, standalone long-term care plans, if that's something that you want to inquire about or get put in place. There are also combo plans out there, right? There are plans that are life insurance and long-term care combinations. There are plans out there that are asset-based. We've talked about this before on the show. Asset-based long-term care plans where you take a lump sum of money and you can convert that into long-term care benefits. So that way it's not a use it or lose it type of benefit. It's a way that you can hold on to your money, but also utilize that to pay for some long-term care down the road. There's long-term care alternatives like living benefits, things that are critical illness, chronic illness benefits that you can get that are not true long-term care, but they're long-term care alternatives. Now, why do I bring this up? Because federal employees that I've talked to that are interested in this now understand that they can't just go to the federal long-term care insurance program and get a benefit put in place or try to enroll because enrollments are suspended. So where do we go? You've got to look outside. And who do you talk to? You got to talk to somebody who is an expert in long-term care and long-term care alternatives, and we can provide that to you. So if you are interested in that, if that is something that you were thinking, man, I really want to get this put in place. I really want to provide this benefit, not just for me, but for my family, so I don't become a burden on them if I become sick or if I need this type of care, then you want to make sure that you know all the options. In the end, if you decide, the cost is not worth the benefit, or the value is not there, that's fine. But you need to know everything that's there. You need to see a plan put together, a plan designed for you to determine if it's the right thing to do. Now, when should you put this in place? This is, subjective, right? But I would say at least 50 and later, maybe even before, but let's say around age 50, start looking into these things, because again, once you're at a point where you no longer qualify, then you're not going to be able to get this type of coverage, or you won't get as comprehensive of coverage that you'd want to if you were, or that you'd be able to if you were in better health. So it's kind of like life insurance. The younger you are, the healthier you are, the better it can be. the easier it can be to put something like this in place. But just understand, it's something that I believe everybody should look into. Whether or not you move forward with it, that's up to you, but you should know all of your options. It's not something that you're generally educated on as a federal employee, not something that you get a whole lot of information about. But if you've been through a situation where a relative, a loved one, a friend went through a long-term care type scenario, they needed to go into a facility, they needed somebody to come to their house and live with them, they needed to have an in-home care several times per week, and they did not have something in place, then you know what I mean by needing this coverage, right? I told you the story about my grandmother. I understand because I've seen this firsthand, that she had to come completely out of pocket, where in her case, the plan would have paid a daily benefit to this live-in aide, this live-in person, and she would have paid pennies on the dollar for that coverage rather than coming completely out of pocket. So long-term care insurance program from the government continues their suspension of enrollments. If you're interested in that, you're going to have to look outside, look at traditional long-term care, combo long-term care plans, or long-term care alternatives.